good morning, everyone. Welcome to this week's new episode of Breakfast with Boom. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start today's show off with a little bit of salt, maybe even a little bit of brimstone and fire. Once again, GI.Biz has taken another hot public pop shot at Microsoft, specifically Xbox Game Pass, because I guess the first time this week that they took the shot, it didn't register enough clicks, so they're back at it. They posted something about 2 hours ago. It came across my radar thanks to some people in the community. And of course, I responded, as you would expect, politically correct boom. I really want to tell them the F themselves, but we'll get into that momentarily. We are loaded with topics. Once again, the gaming news gods, as Asante said, which, by the way, is recovering. I think he has the flu or something because he missed a Wednesday show and he's still under the weather. So, Kay, if you're listening, brother, we hope that you and the family get better soon. Listen, we PlayStation VR reviewing really well. And that's not surprising, folks, because guess what? Sony knows how to make really good hardware. But man, did you see what they're saying about their first party Horizon game? ACG had some things to say about it, and if you don't trust ACG, I don't know who else you could trust. That dude wears it on his sleeve, tells it like it is, and his review of the PlayStation VR 2 was fantastic. And like I said, they do make really good hardware. It's the software that's the problem. And I will say this, the bad reviews on Horizon, the VR experience, reaffirms for me why I didn't invest in PlayStation VR 2.0, because I said this in the green room to the guys, if Sony isn't going to take this serious and invest in their hardware, I'm not going to invest in their hardware, especially if a first party can't deliver. We're also going to be talking about some big news regarding ABK. Now, I know that is a subject that people want to leave behind, but I got to tell you, folks, it is now. We are now in the home stretch of this deal closing. We have information from Post Up and several others within the community that we trust that said that I believe it was the 6th of February, Sony had flown out to Seattle, Microsoft's headquarters, to potentially hash out a deal for Call of Duty. I would imagine that if they do come to some agreement, it's going to make world-breaking news. Listen, we're going to get into it, but let's get into the introductions because I'm jumping too far ahead. Crispy Bomb. For some reason, you always seem to join when I'm hot under the collar or there's some really, really hot news to talk about. And I got to tell you, welcome.
Yes, I'm that guy, at the fire going nice little, you know what I mean? Like stoking it. Let's stoke it. Come on, let's get.
Well, you like making steaks, so you understand what stoking the fire is all about.
Oh yeah, but it's great to be here. It's been an amazing week. I mean, and then just incredible gaming conversation has been there. So, it's been one of those like magical weeks for me, obviously being, a Super Bowl champion now.
Yes.
But, that's something that, Mahomes, bro, you gotta chill out with
that kid is something else.
he almost fell off the bus, I swear, bro. Like, but, yeah, it's been an amazing week, and we're gonna be fired up. Boom is definitely fired up. He's more fired up than I'm used to, so I'm looking forward to this.
I try to keep it reserved because obviously I'm the host, but I gotta tell you, folks, nothing burns my bridges more than when I see consistent a-holing going on. And like I said, we're gonna get into what GI.Biz had to say, and it is an opinion piece, but when you have someone writing an opinion for your publication, you have to understand that said person is representing your brand. This is exactly what we talked about, Dave, a couple of days ago with the Wired article giving Hogwarts a 1 out of 10. Like I said, I think that the opinion of the writer could have been more received, or better well received, I should say, if it would have been an open opt opinion and an article format, not giving a game a 1 out of 10 that is clearly an 8.5 for some. For me, it's a 10 out of 10. It's just one of my favorite games, especially RPG wise. And I know the Black Harry Potter is listening and smiling like the Cheshire Cat. But Dave, brother, good morning. How you?
Good morning.
And welcome.
I'm doing great, Boom. Thank you so much for having me on today. I really appreciate it. I love being here and love talking gaming with everybody. Chat is firing up, and it looks like it's going to be a good one. Man, we got it's this topics today are fun, and you, my friend, are ready to explode. So let's get to it.
Yeah, you know, like I said, I try not to lead by emotion. I try to lead by logic and by factual.
But not today.
But not today. Today I'm a little wound up. But Dreadpool, Mr. 918, folks, what does that mean? What is he 19? It means that he is 82 subscribers away from hitting 1K. And like we're gonna
wait.
Well, it's better. Is it closer?
Aha!
Well, there you go.
Morning.
984. So, folks, look, here's the thing. I don't really ask for much. I really don't. I'm a giver. I am not a taker. I 10 out of 10 times I will give one. I don't like to take. It's just not my thing. So I'm asking. We have 204 people here. There has to be 16 people in this current chat right now that are not subscribed to Dreadpool's YouTube channel. So I'm asking, as a fellow gamer, community member, and content creator, that you head over there live on the air right today on February 17th, that we help him carry him across the line of the 1K. Because like I said, if you don't create content, you got to understand how important and how gratifying it is to cross the 1K. It is a huge congratulatory feeling, and I would appreciate if you went over there right now. I'm gonna drop his link in there, and you subscribe, and we get him live on the air. We get him past 1K, not later, this morning. So Dreadpool, welcome, brother. How you feeling?
Oh, good. I'm feeling great. Unless you ask my wife, because tomorrow is my funeral. We are having the funeral to my youth, because I will be turning the big 50.
That's hilarious. Sunday. Holy crap, that's funny.
So black attire.
Nice.
And yeah, so this
your birthday's today or tomorrow?
Sunday. My birthday's actually on Sunday.
Okay, very good.
So yesterday was my anniversary. So yeah, so it's like birthday, holiday, and anniversary, and then now birthday on Sunday. So yeah, but I'm excited to be here. I missed you guys last week. We had a different family situation happening that I had to attend.
Right.
But I'll let you guys know. Quote, not a dry eye in the house from what I've done.
Yeah, well, we heard it. We talked about it behind the scenes, and good work as always, brother.
But yeah, like I said, I missed you guys, but I had to be there, and it was like we said before in the green room, that it was just something that I had to be at, and it was a good thing I was.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
But I appreciate the birthday 1K, if that's going to be that way, right?
That should be. I mean, just on principle for an early birthday present, folks. I mean, could it be any more? Could the picture be painted any better than what he just painted? I mean, for the love of Joe, your birthday anniversary yesterday. He's dying from youth. His youth is dying on Sunday. I mean, I'm already there, right? And shout out to Shooter. Speaking of not being old, because he says, "Boom, you make me laugh every time you say you're old." Shooter is just got his pacemaker, right? So he's well. He's doing well. He's actually super chatted from the hospital bed a couple of weeks ago. Shooter, welcome, brother. He says, after dropping a $10 super chat, "Hey, Boom, Mrs. Boom, Dreadpool, Web Dave, Crispy Bomb, and Fuzzy, I'd like to give Mr. Bushido my best wishes as he's in the hospital with an iffy ticker. Get well soon, bro." Yeah, congratulations. Get well soon to Mr. Bushido.
Definitely.
That's anything with your ticker, man, is tough, because without that, it's like an engine going in your car. You can't drive without an engine. So hopefully he gets that sorted out the same way Shooter did. we also had Brett Bingham drop a super chat in here. Brett, good morning, brother. Thank you so much for the super chat as always. Oh, wait a second. Ricky Phelan just said that you are at 997.
What?
That's awesome.
$9.99.
Oh, no way.
$9.99.
Come on,
I'm hitting
folks.
refresh.
Who is going to be 1K? Come on, somebody be 1K and let me know who it is. Listen, we're gonna get into it, Dread. But Brett Bingham drops a $5 super chat and says, according to Eurogamer, Xbox fans are tracking Sony's executive jet. Remember, lying, crying in the pan, frying Jim Dale Ryan snitches get stitches. I mean, we're gonna get into that. That's a big story, folks. And the reality
1K.
is,
Oh, no way.
yes.
Who did?
Yeah.
Yes.
Happy birthday, brother.
Happy early birthday, brother.
Yeah.
Thank you, chat. Thank you, community. There you
Wow.
go. Take
Thank
your
you.
bows, Dreadpool. Tell people why they should be subscribed to your channel.
Oh my God. Yes, thank you. I'm speechless again. I wasn't. Thank you.
That's
That's
okay.
good
That's
enough,
all you gotta
brother.
say, man. It's all
That is
good.
good enough. That is congratulations. Thank you, chat, for once again showing how effing awesome you are. Congratulations, Dread. You could now put 1K on your thumbnail. And listen, you are now officially partnered with YouTube, and you will get your email in a couple of days. Congratulations on that. Let's Fuzzy. Can't forget about Fuzzy because he's probably going to be very, very cat-like, if you will. How you feeling, Fuzzy? Good morning, brother.
Good morning, everyone. Glad to be here. Thank you for having me on, and man, thank you for everyone in the chat for being here as well. Man, just the dog pile on Xbox just never stops.
We're gonna open up with that because it's look, folks. Here's the thing, okay? I understand that being in third place warrants a big target on your back. Right? I understand, sometimes Xbox does things that they kind of put themselves in a corner, right? Phil Spencer, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago talked about VR. And every time you talk about VR, Phil Spencer, the liar. It just didn't work out, right? Now, to invest in VR is millions and millions and millions of dollars. And FYI, it doesn't sell really well. Look what's happening with PlayStation VR 2.0. They had originally said 2 million units. They moved it back to 1 million. I can guarantee you, folks, that they're not even going to sell 1 million. That thing is going to sit on the shelves like a paperweight. And perfect example of that is, one, the economy sucks right now. And I don't know about you, but I don't have $649 plus tax to buy the Ultimate Edition with Horizon, which apparently sucks. And again, I'm using ACG's words. When he was asked specifically about it, he says it's not particularly a good VR game, and it's not, and at worst, it's not even a good Horizon game. That's what he said. Now, maybe I might have paraphrased to a pinch, but go check out his review on it. Now, his review for the unit itself was phenomenal. He went into how comfortable it is. They have a lot of different things with the eye tracking and the controllers. Like I said in the opening, Sony knows how to make good hardware. It's the software that's the problem. And I said this, and I will say it again. If you can't deliver 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 first-party software for your device, that tells me that you are not fully invested. And if you're not going to invest in it, I am not going to invest in it. But I'm going to get right into the GameIndustry.biz article. Now, this posted, I'm going to tell you exactly how long ago it was. It was 2 hours ago, folks. And as Fuzzy Belvedere just said, which we'll start with you, Fuzzy, the dogpiling continues on Xbox. Now, I have said this once, probably 10 times, maybe even more than that. I don't understand how in an economy where things are as expensive and are going up on a daily basis, literally from one day to the next, how Xbox Game Pass is not being hailed as the greatest thing since sliced bread. Now, I'm going to mention 4 particular games that I wrote down here. Now, you heard me talk about this yesterday when I sat down with Jesse Norris, but I really want to bring it into the conversation today. Last year, there were 4 games that if you asked any average gamer to any hardcore gamer, at least 2 out of the 4, maybe for me, 4 out of the 4 games jump off the page and are considered quote unquote bangers. Well, all 4 games I'm about to read on their own are going to be some of the most talked about games in 2023. And guess what, folks? They're all in Xbox Game Pass. I'm talking about Atomic Heart, Stalker 2, Lies of P, and Wulong. Every one of those games were on people's must-watch lists last year. When they come out and they're playable this year, I can guarantee you that most of these games, if not all of them, are going to be in people's top 10s. And what's crazy and what's not being talked about, Fuzzy, is the fact that all 4 of those games are dropping into Xbox Game Pass day and date. Mm-hmm. Now, the article that we're talking about over here at GameIndustry.biz, it says nobody is surprised by Microsoft's admission that Game Pass cannibalizes paid sales, and many companies are untroubled. But the potential remains a threat for others. Now, I don't understand. And now, look, here's the thing. Most big websites, when they put something out there, they get a ton of likes and clicks and retweets and quoted tweets. You know how much the GameIndustry.biz has become the Inquirer, that when you're waiting to pay for your groceries, that Inquirer, the rag mag, that's what they have become. It has 14 likes and 7 retweets 2 hours ago. I responded, and I have more than they do, and that's saying something. I have 37 likes, as opposed, and I'm a nobody. Well, I responded to them, Fuzzy. And what I said is this: I have an idea, GI.Biz. How about writing an article that celebrates how Xbox is offering gamers of every financial station the ability to be a part of gaming, or how Xbox Game Pass gives developers and publishers of every size a chance to succeed? The dogpiling is ridiculous. Please take it away, Fuzzy.
Yeah, it never ceases to amaze me how people like to pile on Game Pass as being this boogeyman within the industry, but yet where was everybody when Spotify came around, or even Netflix for that matter? It's like they're only concerned now with studios that, even though a lot of them come out and say, oh, my experience in Game Pass was awesome because it allowed more people to play the game, more people are looking towards the studio for their next game, that people were buying, like, I guess, additional content and things along those lines. So while it may stop or prevent or cause a gamer not to purchase that actual game, the studio is still getting the money from Microsoft to have it in the service. Now, from what I remember, and even I'll just use my own point of view as far as, or my experience as far as what I've done with Game Pass, because I've had to adjust my purchasing history to some extent, where originally most of the games I was kind of on the fence that I'd wind up buying, eventually like at 6 months would wind up in Game Pass. So I've kind of curbed or adjusted that a bit. Like some of them that if I'm on the fence, I might wait a bit to see if they wind up in Game Pass sooner. And then before they leave Game Pass, I wind up picking them up at a discounted price. So basically at that point, the dev is almost getting like a double dip. They're getting the money from Microsoft, and they're still getting at least some money from me at the back end when the game leaves the service. But it just seems like everyone wants this big secret to be unveiled of, oh, it's bad for the industry because people aren't going to buy games anymore. How many people buy CDs still, or DVDs and Blu-rays? Like, there's still a good bit of people that still buy them because a lot of, like, let's say even us hardcore gamers are still going to want to own the game, because with the exception of first party, not everything stays in Game Pass forever. But even some of the first party, because of licensing deals, I still wind up picking up the Forza Horizons, like the earlier ones, before they leave. If I didn't pick them up day one, I still wind up picking them up because they're eventually going to leave because of the licensing on the cars and things along those lines. But it just seems like every opportunity they want to kick or Microsoft while they're, I guess, perceived to be down to some extent. I mean, they are in third place, sure, but it just the low bar of entry to get into gaming at this point, especially considering how hard things are for not just the economy in general, but even though yes, you can now find like some of the consoles readily available on some of the shelves, it's still in certain areas still hard to come across them as easily. And still the bar of entry where you could just have your existing TV or your existing phone or maybe your laptop that isn't that big of a gaming rig, you could still access Game Pass through those and play at a fidelity that's probably better than what that possible 10-year-old laptop could do on its own. So nobody wants to talk about that as far as still being able to have access, still being able to get into gaming, even when the chips may be down. They rather just focus on, because it's in Game Pass, people aren't buying it. And last time I checked, even one of their competing brands has that service. Now, sure, they don't have their first party day and date, but they did put at least Stray in there as a day and date. Now, I don't know if that was...
Which is why I subscribed to the service in the first place.
Yeah. So I don't know if people forgot that occurred on that other platform, but nobody looks at that because, hey, Sony's making, money hand over fist with their sales of hardware and the software that's selling on their platform. But in the grand scheme of things, if you had more subscribers, which they did the whole PS Plus change around to make it seem like, hey, between PS Now and PS Plus, we have a whole bunch of people on our service. But at some point, they're going to look at that recurring revenue as probably a better guarantee, especially if you're going to have a few games that may not hit the mark as well. Like Forspoken, whether you love it or hate it, it didn't move the needle as much as some other Square Enix properties. And as far as when it comes to overall sales, that would have been a game that would have probably been better shielded within like a service where probably more people would be willing to spend. I'll spend $14 or $18 to hop into this service for a couple of months, try out the game, as opposed to spending the full 70. And at that point, you might get more people that would have been on the fence that wouldn't have spent the 70 up front and would have probably waited until the game was 30 anyway to hop into that service. So someone would at that point get more revenue as opposed to it, like with Sony getting the 30% cut from the store and, possibly Square Enix getting the remaining 70% from the consumer. Now Sony gives them the money up front as far as for perceived sales and probably some bonus money if it reaches a certain number of, active users. And the actual Sony themselves would probably get more money as far as, new subscribers to the service. So the media, if it was any other platform other than Xbox, they probably wouldn't be so focused on it. They didn't focus on Stadia to this degree. They're sure not focusing on Luna to this degree. But hey, Microsoft, the old Microsoft of the 90s with Bill Gates, yeah, they're still the boogeyman. So we got to pile on them, and it becomes a tired story for a lot of this gaming media. But I've rambled enough. Let me give everyone else's a turn to give their thoughts on this, because I definitely want to hear what they have to say as well.
No, listen, one of the things that I'm gonna go to Crispy first on this. Crispy, one of the things suspiciously left off of the conversation of games, they're losing sales on games in the documents from the CMA. And again, I don't understand how GI.B you got to see how they're painting a picture here. Everborn Saga read it live on the air. You were there. It clearly stated after 12 months, sales declined for said title. I'm sorry. Usually after 6 weeks, sales decline of any game, unless it's a Hogwarts or a Call of Duty. And even then, after a certain amount of time, sales decrease. This is just another opinion piece that is strictly out there to garner clicks from the hate community. Getting tired of seeing it, getting tired of talking about it. And I thought GI.Biz was a better publication. It turns out that they are now filling the ranks of some of the worst journalistic websites. And I think, and the list is growing. What are your thoughts, brother?
Yeah, I mean, Everborn kind of laid it all out there on Wednesday. That was, that was something like you actually read it and you actually, not take it out of context, and you say, well, yeah, like every game dies out after a year, like every single one. And yes, that's why we have DLCs, people. Yes, they come back out of the woodwork, especially if they've invested a lot of money. There's a DLC coming out and people haven't got it. Oh man, that's pretty cool. All right, let me get in there. You see it with like Hot Wheels and stuff like that. It's one of those things. Like I look at it and I say, why are you even writing this? Like there's no reason for it. I don't see people, analyzing the fact that a few months after now you see bundles for all the PlayStation games. Anybody calling that out? Because you know why they do that? Because what?
They layer the sales. That's what they do.
They're not getting quite as much sales now. They've gotten their big influx. Because this is the way our purchasing is. It wasn't always that way. A lot of times a game would come out and we'd have to wait because we didn't have the money. And that's what a lot of people are forgetting. You know what I mean? Like that, they had a more consistent over a 12-year period. But eventually, after a year period, it would die out. And that's the thing. Like, what are we talking about? It's absolutely insane. And this is where Game Pass helps games. You know what I mean? You see Game Pass come in to the service later, something good, something really good sometimes, something you know what I mean? Some of the EA games, they come in there and all of a sudden it brings this back up. Like I'm sure Madden's getting a boost on the back end with the microtransactions and stuff right now. You know what I mean? Because it's about to come into the service. Like these are little things that, give you the option. And that's what, are we hating Game Pass for being an option? Is that where we're at this point? Like we just want what we've always had. Like, I would love for Blockbuster to return. I used to, some of us would actually go back there again. You know what I mean? It's those type of things. Like it was an option and, eventually it got killed by another option. Just because Sony isn't willing to put their first party into their service does not mean that Xbox can't do it themselves. Okay. And that's where we say competition. That's why I hope, they do hash it out. Like, let's get this done and over with this ABK thing. Because, it is about competition. And it's one of those things like, why are you dogpiling on a company that is giving people affordable options? It makes absolutely no sense to me.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. Like I said, listen, I've said it before, and I think everyone here has called Microsoft to the carpet when they do things that are not in the best interest of us, the gamers, right? When they do things like, for instance, Crispy, you jumped on the podcast with me when we called them out for the gold situation a couple of years ago. When they were going to raise gold to $120, we were like, whoa, what are we doing
we
here?
Gave them the smoke.
And we gave them the
a lot of people not liking what we had to say.
Yes.
That chat was probably the fieriest chat I've ever seen.
Yep.
And you know what? We stood on our hill because we're not those guys that are going to spin this into something good. No, we ain't like that. Like like Boom says, I wear my heart on my sleeve, man. Like, I don't mess around here. Like when you're being outrageous and outlandish, I'm going to call you out on it. And that's what we were thinking at that point. And then they abruptly just were like, nope, nah, we're not doing that. There's too much, you know what I mean? Which was smart. Okay. But it shouldn't have needed to happen. And that's another point.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's good stuff. Listen, Dave, I want to bring you into the conversation. You're our money guy. You obviously do that for a living, so you understand the ins and outs. How is it that a publication is highlighting, or almost the way it's written is the I got you moment. You see, I got you, Xbox. You're losing money. You lied. You're not making money. I don't remember the last time a big time publication went out there and said, man, for the money that I am spending, I can't thank Microsoft enough because I and my family are all a part of the conversation. Has anyone done a congratulatory article with this mere suggestion that the family plan is going to offer 5 subscriptions for $25? And it's not like you're sharing perks like, oh, hey, Dave, don't use game whatever because I want to play it. No, everyone that's going to be on your family plan, whether it be you and someone else or you and 4 other people, are all going to have your own thing, your own perks, your own games, not having to worry about who's playing what. There hasn't been any. Now, I understand it's not out, but it has been announced, and it's out in some regions.
Mm-hmm.
See, these are the kind of articles that should be written. And it seems like hating on Xbox is a thing, folks. I suppose it generates clicks because, well, people can, websites continue to do it, and GI.Biz, peddling their bullshit is another perfect example of that. Dave, what's your opinion on this, dude?
Well, I mean, the reason that they do it is because they need the ad revenue, and the reason they get that ad revenue would be because of clickbait articles, because they're going to have people click on it because they want to know what's this all about. Even though it's kind of been all over the news already for the last couple of days and pretty much quashed and explained away exactly what the quote was, and they're just going with the quote still because they know that there'll be some people that haven't either read the articles or want to think, oh, well, there must be some new information. Let me click on this. The PlayStation, Sony is the market leader for console gaming. So there is a bigger market of PlayStation owners out there that will be reading articles and stories about their beloved box, the Sony PlayStation. Now, there are a lot of people, and I think every one of us on this panel have multiple systems. We have Switch, we have PlayStation, we have Xbox, PCs, handhelds, Steam Decks. So there's definitely a lot of gaming going on. But there are people out there that just want to get the quick news bite, the stories that are maybe not as hardcore or as, I guess as involved in gaming as we are, or into gaming as we are. Even casual gamers may click on the headlines, and that just seems to bolster the premise that, Sony's good, Xbox bad. And it's not. It's not. We know it's not true. We know that, the tides eventually will turn. And, Sony's been the market leader for over 20 years.
2 decades. That's correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
And even when this deal goes through, and it will go through, that it's going to be, they'll be the, still won't be in third place. They won't move up any just because of the deal. It's not going to change their position. What's going to change their position is going to be the extended content in Game Pass, and as Game Pass grows and starts to to permeate the market, when more and more people realize what a good deal it actually is. So that's and if people that make games didn't want to put their games in the service, it's not like Microsoft is twisting their arm to do so. They wouldn't do it. I mean, obviously it makes financial sense for them to put their game in there, or it wouldn't happen. So there's a lot of arguments, and I think there's only been like maybe one developer that's come out and said that they wish they had maybe done a different type of deal with that, but they had the option.
No,
Yeah, exactly.
Correction. That's an ex-CEO. He wasn't even with the company.
Oh, there you go.
And he was speaking out of line.
Yeah. But my point is, those odds are pretty much crazy. And then there's a lot of game, including Square Enix, who has come out and said that if they didn't put Outriders in there, it wouldn't have been as successful as it is because they put it into Game Pass. So you can't really, it's an article that's just, it's clickbaity, it's stupid, and they should know better, but they don't. until it quits making them money to put out these kind of articles, we'll continue to see this kind of stuff. So it's sad, and the only thing you can do is just limit your input, and you know that if these people are not putting out good content, the good information, then maybe you should not listen to what they say and maybe go on. Kind of like Wired, you definitely shouldn't listen to a Wired article on Hogwarts Legacy when they gave it such an outstanding review. Yeah, so it's ridiculous. Obviously, there's a lot of bias in the world, and it's just political climates. Not to get political, but I mean, you just have to go through the crap to get to the good content, like here on Boom's channel. That's what
well, thank you, brother. I definitely appreciate that. No, thank you. Redpool, let's get your final opinion on this, and then I will get to the super chats. Been quite a few of them, and then we're going to get into this Sony situation. I think that this deal is closer to being done than a lot of people. I know regulators have their problems and their issues, and we know the FTC is falling apart as we speak, which anyone that is in this country should be embarrassed, because that is our government literally falling apart in front of us. And that's because of the chair, Lena Khan. She is doing things that are unconstitutional. She has ideologies that are questionable at best. And, well, a perfect example of that is we talked about it on Wednesday, that the only Republican left is leaving only Democrats on. It's not supposed to be like that. That's because the ship is not being run correctly. With that said, though, let's reel this back in and talk about the Xbox Game Pass situation. GI.Biz, once again, peddling their garbage, trying to make a great service that offers an incredible amount of value. That is not the story here, though, Dredd. The story here is how it's losing money and how they are twisting words from what a response that Microsoft gave the CMA. And like I said, the most important aspect of the conversation that they left out was that they saw a steep decline in sales after 12 months. They don't say that. The way it's painted is that anything that's in Game Pass is apparently losing money for said company. And they also forget to mention, Dredd, that these companies are handsomely paid up front to be a part of Game Pass. Like I said, I think the most important thing with this service, folks, and I don't have a marketing degree, but I have basic knowledge. If you try to sell a game in 2023 on any service and you put it into said service, when was the last time anyone here, raise your hand, that you went to the Xbox store and you clicked on what's new? Do you see how many games come up? Like most games you just blow by, you don't even pay attention to unless it's your hot new game. Who looks at indies? I know I do specifically, but a lot of people don't. Well, one of the biggest advantages is the marketing aspect. When you go into Xbox Game Pass, one of 30 plus million people that are subscribed might download your game. That's basically free advertising. You're getting put into a service that Microsoft, Xbox Wire, we, Game Pass _daily, we get out there and we say, hey, guess what, folks? These are the new games coming out for Xbox for the week of whatever. And everyone flocks to it. And maybe the game sucks. Maybe this game is the greatest thing since sliced bread. What are your thoughts on this article, Dredd?
Since when are options a bad thing?
I don't know.
That's and how many times have I said this before? You can have an opinion, but you got to base your opinion on facts. You're not even stating facts. You're just basing on your opinion on whatever and misleading with a narrative. And that's what they're doing. The whole thing is you can state your facts. You got to present everything. And then you can say, based on these facts, this is my opinion. And you can say, hey, this is an opinion piece. Have they even said any of that? No. They've lied about this. They've lied about that. They've lied about this other thing. They've misled. Here's the narrative. Here's my misdirection, right? And at the same time, not only did they tweet about it, they pushed it out again, right? So they're doing the same thing that who was that?
I think it was Game Rant that did that. They put out their article 5 times from going back months and months ago. Yeah, it's just garbage. Yeah.
I mean, just purposely trying to clickbait. And the problem is you want clickbait, but this is not true clickbait. This is the clickbait of spamming, and scamming people. This is what they're doing. They're scamming you into believing something. Right? So the whole misdirection. When you're doing actual clickbait, that's the whole thing. It's supposed to get you. That's why you have these headlines on the magazines and in newspapers. It's supposed to get you to draw your eyeballs in, but you got to deliver. They're not even delivering. So clickbait gets a bad rap when it comes to this because it's actually a bait and switch. And that's the problem. That's what it should be called, clickbait and switch. And that's what they're doing. It's an opinion piece that doesn't even count. We need to stop giving these guys the eyeballs. I mean, obviously, they had to do it again because ain't nobody looking at them. And that's a sad news. But it's also good news that nobody's paying attention because the normies don't know. We know better. And you know what? We've got people in the community. The Game Pass just doesn't do it for them. We have people in the community that have been loyal Game Pass subscribers, and they're just done with it. And they said, you know what? Right now, currently, I got a PS5. PS5 is doing it for me, and I can't afford to have both services. So I'm going with the PlayStation service for now. And they'll go back and forth. So and there's nothing wrong with that. You can do whatever you want, but if you're going to say something like that, back it up with why your opinion's this. But to say it that it's an opinion, don't. I can't say it enough. Don't mislead people with a narrative like that. Tell the truth and tell them why it's your truth, but don't lie about everything else. Because we're still. I don't know if you guys notice stuff like this. These kind of articles brings us back, right? It brings us back to 2013. Xbox is bad because the Kinect is no longer part of this. This is no longer. Game Pass and Kinect have nothing to do with each other. That Microsoft has nothing to do with that Xbox. Everything going on now is totally different people in charge. Has nobody paid attention to this? And obviously the normies haven't. We have, and this is why we got to call them out and put them back in their place to do a report and come back out with proper information, because yet again, this narrative is misleading the normies. You can have your opinion. There's nothing wrong with that, but state that it's an opinion and don't leave out certain things. It's just like Excel, right? These Excel gurus, you leave out a certain thing and now these other numbers look great. Oh, wait, if you put this back in, oh, look at that. It's no longer great again. Or now that it was bad, now it looks great. So it's this whole thing that they got to stop doing, and we got to hold them accountable. I mean, there's other, and this is why the mass media is losing faith and they're coming back towards us, towards Seasoned Gaming, towards Iron Lords, all these other from the ground up. I mean, local people doing what should have been done by the mass media in gaming.
Yeah. It's because of the way the media turned in 2014. I mean, it took me a couple of years because we didn't start the channel till November of 2017, but it was my unbelievable distaste and mistrust for the gaming media. Not just simply because they turned on Xbox. Xbox deserved the smoke that they got back in 2013 because they just had some dumb people running the show. Sorry, that's the truth. They, the DRM stuff and the always online and the connecting that actually didn't bother me, to be honest with you, because that was fine. We're doing DRM right now. It's a big deal.
And that was the thing is back then that you had different execs saying different things, so they weren't even on the same page. So they deserved all that smoke, but that was the problem, was certain things were blown out of proportion back then, because people weren't ready for it. Right? Not can't have a Connect because it's watching you. I mean, my wife thought that there was a ghost in the house because the TV was talking to her while she was pregnant. She threw the blanket on top of the Connect because the guy was saying that I'm right behind you, right? And this is in Dead Island. Mind you, I pre-ordered Dead Island too. But
yeah, so did I.
that was that whole
game.
thing, right? Now what do we have? We have Alexa, we have Siri, we have all this stuff already doing it, right? We talk about now that everybody's listening, we're going to talk about diapers, and now that your phone heard that, you're going to see diaper commercials, diaper, right?
Yeah,
Now you're going to see diaper advertisements.
Yeah,
think about that. But when you're ahead that far, it's a bad thing.
Yeah,
but now it's commonplace, and it's still we still bring up 2013 for what they did and the miscommunication. Again, state the facts. Leave the opinions out unless you say that it's an opinion piece, and state your opinion as to why. If it doesn't cut it for you, then it doesn't cut it for you. But don't lie that they're not getting money. They're getting money up front. We know that they're making money. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it. One person that said it was an ex-CEO was all upset because he didn't cut a good deal.
No, that's why he's the ex.
Exactly.
CEO. I mean, perfect. Look, at the end of the day, folks, choose who you trust when it comes to reviews. Choose who you trust when it comes to opinion pieces. One of the things that I have an incredible distaste for is how it's carved and it's cut to make it fit a narrative.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate to say this, but the narrative of hate for Xbox is real. It continues. Eventually, unbegrudgingly, many of these sites are going to have to bend the knee. And, when Xbox does what Xbox is supposed to do and deliver first party, and then in that first party, you talk Game Pass, and then they have these incredible experiences in third and second and indie games coming into the service on top of their first party, then you're going to see a lot of these sites start rah-rahing for Microsoft because they're going to have no choice. Now, obviously, Microsoft has a different way of doing things. They're the nice guy, and that's like me. I prefer being nice than being not nice. Like, you got to really push me to be an a-hole because I don't like that. I like being the good guy. There is a reason why a lot of these sites are pro Sony. It isn't because Sony's paying them, and maybe they are. It is a fear factor because Sony cuts people off at the ankles. The same thing for Nintendo. You say something bad about Nintendo, they act like you don't exist. That's just the way it is. You say something bad about Microsoft, they're like, hey, let's have an interview. Now, again, I understand why they have to do that because they're in third place. But sometimes you got to show your fangs. And hopefully, when they get their first party in order, and we are seeing releases every 3 months or every 4 months or every 5 months, and we're getting these bangers that are 80 and 85, 90, 100 meta games like Starfield and Redfall and Motorsport and hopefully Hellblade 2 this year. You're going to see a change of ideology at these sites because they're going to literally have no choice but to give the flowers to Microsoft. But we've spent enough on this. We got to get into Jim Ryan now. I see that there's a lot of discourse here regarding, well, Sony has studios out in Seattle. They're probably going to see that. I have multiple things I'm going to read to you that not only suggest but prove that they flew out to Seattle to hash out this Call of Duty deal. Ultimately, and we're going to get into the very, very finite detail particulars on why having the company split, as it was suggested by the CMA, would not only be bad for the Activision Blizzard King deal, it would be bad for Sony ultimately. But let me catch up on the super chats, and then we will get into that story, folks. Brett Bingham drops an additional very generous $2 super chat and says, PSA, Tencent stopped their VR development today. Yes, that was announced, folks. So if Tencent, one of the biggest investors in gaming, is stopping VR development, what does that say for VR? I'm not saying that I don't like it. I love VR. I think it's phenomenal, but it is not something that it's taken too long to hit. It's like the 3D TV. It was a big buzzword, and it was, you bought your Blu-rays, and it came with a 3D version. And everyone's like, yeah, put on the glasses. And eventually what happened? Ugats. Fell to the wayside. No one gives a shit. That's what's probably going to happen with VR. I'm telling you right now, as stout as the technology is in PlayStation VR 2, and it's a really, really nice headset, it is just going to flop. It is going to flop from from the minute it goes on sale. I put it to you this way, folks, and this is how you know that this is a telltale sign. If you think I'm lying, if you think I'm being anti-Sony, I'm being a bot, go to the PlayStation website right now when I'm live on the air and see if you can pre-order your headset. Because I get you. I checked last week. I haven't checked today. I can guarantee you that you're going to be able to pre-order it. That, folks, is the telltale sign. If you can pre-order it so close to launch, there's a problem. Test me, please, by all means. Go to the website right now and see if you can pre-order it. Because you could as of last week. Both bundles were available. That says something. But Jose Alavella drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, I just want to say good morning, everyone. Congratulations, Dreadpool. Thank you, Jose. Definitely appreciate you being here. Thank you for the generosity, but thank you for the congratulations for Dreadpool. Kenta Wilson drops a very generous $10 super chat, and he says, the golden age of gaming is here with Game Pass. Indeed it is, sir. Chris Lee. What's up, brother Chris? Hopefully you're doing well. He's a new channel member, and he also drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, morning boom and chat. Taking a break from editing to catch up on the news. Sony flew to Seattle. What? Yes, we're going to get into that. And Jose drops an additional very generous $5 super chat, and he says, can't afford a PlayStation VR 2. Sony says, just start an Only's fan and to be able to afford it. Basically, he's implying that you should get a second job. Like they said for the PlayStation 3, which didn't end well for them. We also have a big super chat that came in. Let me just make sure I find it here. Hold on, because I don't know the number because it's not U.S. money. I believe it's a $20 super chat, if I'm not mistaken. I saw that pop up, but I want to just confirm it because it is orange. So whatever that money's is, let me just make sure. Hold on. Let me. Oh, man, this chat is just. Oh, here it is. David Chimenti. First of all, David Chimenti, thank you so much for the very generous $20 super sticker. He didn't even say anything. David, thank you so much for the generosity, brother.
$50 Definitely. Canadian.
Yeah, $50 Canadian, which is a lot of money, dude. That's crazy. Thank you very much for the generosity. We also have, let me just get back to the private chats. Gerald Mack. Hey, Gerald, thanks so much for being here. He's been a channel member for 1 year. He drops a $5 super chat and says, salute to the hardest working man in content creation, Mr. Boomstick. Thank you, sir. It's my absolute honor to do this 5 days a week. I absolutely love it. And I appreciate the compliment. Giggity08 drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, I use Game Pass like a rental service. If I enjoy the game, I will buy it. Since you usually get 10% off and when it's in Game Pass. Best service I've ever had. Indeed, I agree absolutely. Chris713, who's been a channel member for 3 months, said, would you rather 1 million in sales or 10 million people playing it? And see, that's the thing. One of the things that is strikingly frustrating and shocking with Sony is their games are $70. We all know that. So, like I said before, here in New Rochelle, New York, where I live, you go to the GameStop and it's $76.43. Right. So that's a one-time sale. Now, if they would have taken something like Forspoken and dropped it into the service and not into all 3 tiers, see, they can get cheeky, folks. They could say, hey, listen, in the premium $18 a month tier, we're putting some exclusive content, which would make some people who didn't want to spend $70 on a game that they were a little iffy about go and subscribe. Right now, think about this for a second. You're like, wow, boom, $18 versus $70. They need the money, this, that, and the third. But here's the thing. the one-time $70 purchase from me versus maybe, let's say, 10 people subscribing to the service, that's $180, right? So, I mean, I'm no mathematician, but 10 times $18 is $180. Just do the math, folks. Just do the math. What would that's a perfect example to what he just said, what Chris said in there. Would you rather only a couple of people playing and buying the game, or would you like a lot of people to potentially jump into your service and be like, and now I'm going to jump in because it's a game that I don't want to spend $70 on that's in there. Simple mathematics, folks. I don't know why Sony doesn't get it. But Gerald Mack drops an additional $5 super chat and says, negative opinions about Game Pass are just opinions. Everyone has one, even if it's stupid. Yeah, it's true. It's 100% true. Michael Mooney. Hey, Mike, thanks for joining us, brother. He drops a very generous £5 super chat and says, I wonder if Sony would be up for buying Call of Duty without studios for $3 to $5 billion. Sony, as of December 2022, has $13 billion in cash on there. I don't think they would sell to them because it would be a conflict of interest. They're already the market leader. Could you imagine Sony having and owning Call of Duty? That would be disastrous for everybody. That would be a disaster, especially for competition, which is what they're fighting right now, supposedly. But we're going to get into that in a second. And Brett Bingham, who's been a channel member for 2 months, drops an additional $5 super chat and says, I have Xbox Game Pass because there are games on there I'm on the fence about, and I want to test them first before I buy, just in case I don't like it. Yeah, that's what a lot of people do that. But so let's get into the story that broke last night. We saw Tim Dog talking about it. We saw Florian Mueller. I believe I'm mispronouncing it. It's he's at Foss Patents. We saw Tom Warren of The Verge, who, of course, Tom we trust. Basically, Tom had put out a tweet, and this was after it started making some rounds. Now, the story originally generated from the Financial Times, and Tom Warren said Sony commenting that it's in private negotiations with Microsoft is interesting after radio silence on Microsoft's 10-year offer. Could we finally see a deal on Call of Duty soon? I missed this last week when I was traveling. So what Tom is referring to, folks, is now, again, I have a ton of DMs, some of which I won't tell you who they're from because it's obviously private talk between people, but we do have it on several opinions that Sony has flown out to Seattle to sit down with Microsoft and hash out a deal for Call of Duty. Now, what is going to be anything more than a 10-year deal and parity and potentially going to be in their top tier service for PlayStation Premium, PlayStation Plus Premium? I don't know what else would be in there. They're not certainly going to have the marketing rights. The marketing rights are going to revert back to ownership, whoever owns the company at the time, whether that be Activision or Microsoft. Right now, as we know, this year, which we have confirmation that there's going to be a mainline release, which we didn't think there was going to be one, and then Sony has it one more year. They had it last year with Modern Warfare 2. They have it this year for whatever they're going to release, whether that's a remake of Black Ops 1 or whatever, we don't know, and then next year's release. After that, it expires the deal. The deal is done. Now, Microsoft at that point should be the owner by the end of this year, or by the middle of this year, at least anyway, by June. And then marketing rights are going to be retained by Xbox. And they're going to put it on every box that they can find, especially when they come out with their little streaming box. Call of Duty is going to be slapped on there. And if they don't, they're stupid. I'll tell you that right now. Well, I have a tweet that was 8 hours ago that I got up this morning and I started pulling stuff for the store for the show. And again, it's from Foss Patents at Foss Patents on Twitter. And he simply says, hard evidence that Sony executives flew from London to Seattle in a Falcon 8X on February 6th, presumably to negotiate the Call of Duty license with Microsoft, and he actually has the flight pattern as his proof. Now, look, at the end of the day, folks, like we were talking, I'm gonna go first to Dave on this because Dave, you're our money guy, and you have been really like flag in the sand. I'm not moving off this square. The deal is getting done. Can you explain to us in layman's terms why separating the Activision and Call of Duty IP from Activision Blizzard King for the deal, as it was suggested by the CMA, would not only be hurtful for Xbox and Microsoft, but more so for Sony? Because if this goes to another company, then the bidding war starts. Sony could technically be boxed out of actually getting Call of Duty if the monies are not right. What are your thoughts on Jim Ryan potentially flying out to get this deal, to make a deal that everybody, including Sony, wins?
Well, in your first part, Microsoft probably would not agree to that. If there was like the only sticking point was that they needed to sell off, they're not going to do that because most other regions wouldn't require it. They could do, which I think Michael Proctor alluded to in his comments that he made the other day, that they could actually, and that's just in that one region, they could actually put in place a third-party entity that would actually
publish the game. Yeah,
correct. They would publish the game, and they would actually have controlling interest in that area only, in that district only, as far as what controlling rights and what and they would probably go through the same process of what would make them the most money, even though it would technically be owned, be a company that would be set up by Microsoft. So in the long run, that's so far fetched that would ever come to that. It's not going to come to that. I'll just tell you that right now. But if it, if we're saying that, if Microsoft needed to give Sony this, some kind of advantage or whatever, I don't think that's going to happen either. I think the advantage is going to end in a few years when the actual contracts are up for what Activision has in place. And then after that is probably going to be parity, whether it be multiple years or not. They may want to stop the deal to go through. They may want to try and change the deal to where like they have the exclusive rights for certain levels or games or parts of the game for the next 10 years. But they're not going to agree to that. And they really don't have to. It's really more. I mean, there's a lot of people that really want to, this deal's in trouble. This deal's, and it's just not that way. It really isn't. And then the whole premise of that they flew out to speak to them. There's I believe that kind of why they're in town type thing. There's other people that are saying that, well, maybe it wasn't them. Maybe they went to go see the team at Bungie, which they purchased. But that's part of it too. That's not saying that they couldn't go other stops. But do we 100% know that they actually went and met with Microsoft? At this point, there's actually been a lot of behind the scenes things and a lot of people that are in the know that are actually saying that, yes, there has been a conversation that has happened recently between Microsoft and Sony, and it has been a while since they've talked. So whether they are out there to do other business as well, that's a possibility, of course. But since you're in town, you're going to take care of everything you got to take care of. But I tend to believe that they probably did actually have some kind of meeting, and it may be to the point to where they sense that the deal is going to go through, and maybe they do need to start maybe just kind of feeling it out. So we're still going to get this 10-year thing, right? that may be to where they're at this point. We're not really sure. We do believe that this, and I say there's people I've talked to that are in the know, and a few lawyers that have said that it actually seems like that this is actually the final phase. This is actually could actually wrap up in a few months. Hopefully it will before the June deadline. That would be great if it's all done before E3. But at this point, it's still we're all speculating, and speculation town's a wonderful place to be in. And I wish I had all the right answers, but I feel pretty confident that that this deal is going to go through, and most likely Sony is probably just if they are at this point, let's just say they're probably trying to cover their ass. They're just trying to make sure that they're still in the conversation when it comes down to it. They don't want to have a 10-year deal worked out with everybody and then be like, oh, your 3 years is up. Oh, thanks for not coming to talk to us.
Yeah. It's funny because there was some news the other day, and again, I didn't really want to talk about it because I wasn't sure how legitimate it was. But if you remember, Jim Ryan originally said that they offered them a 3-year deal.
Right.
Well, there was some documentation that was making the rounds where the deal was actually 5 years.
Right.
And because someone had specifically asked Dave, wait, so what you're saying is they offered a 3, a 5, and a 10? No, they offered a 5 and then a 10.
Yes. I think with the 3 in place though was actually what was it currently in place.
Yes,
is what that was basically kind of what they were referring to. And most people are like, they were lying saying it was a 3. No,
it was the 2 years that were left plus the 2 years moving forward. Yeah,
correct. Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. Yep. There you go.
All right. Let's bring in Crispy Bomb in on the conversation. Crispy, this is, again, we're not analysts. I wasn't on the private jet. Jim doesn't answer my calls, which is fine. I completely understand it. Look, at the end of the day, it is in the best interest of everyone to get this deal done. The employees who are going to have a union, who are going to be under new leadership from Microsoft, are hoping that this deal gets done. Gamers like myself who look to Game Pass as an incredible value are hoping this deal gets done because games like Diablo 4 potentially are dropping day and date into the system, into the service. Moving forward after 2024, you could expect to find Call of Duty in there for your subscription fee, whether it stays at 15 as a part of the deal. Maybe that's one of the concessions. Hey, you can't raise prices for X years, and Microsoft is going to sign it because they want this deal done. And I'm hoping for that because I don't want to see Game Pass go up at $1. When you hear, because I'm looking at the chat and I've been reading this since yesterday, and I don't normally read the comments. But I figured, for context, let me read some of the stuff that people are saying. And most people in that thread were like, there's no way that you can say, there's no chance that they flew out there to speak to Microsoft. They weren't speaking to Microsoft. Why would they speak to them now? How do you respond to that, Crispy?
Well, I mean, it's quite simple. There's been a lot of bridge burning at this point. You know what I mean? They both parties have, cats out of the bag type deal. You know what I mean? And comes a point in time in any negotiation that, if it's not going to be a knockdown, drag out brawl, which it seemed like we were going there, they're going to have to sit down face to face because this isn't going to be, you can't hang up the phone, can't do nothing. You got to sit down. You got to grit and bear it, eat the stupidity that you think, because you have a different opinion or a different thought process and come to an agreement. I mean, this is why, representatives, they're still going back to, talking in person because it's just needed. So it's one of those things like, yes, it would be logical if they're going to get a deal done that they would show up, and also, do their rounds and visit who they're going to visit. And, you could all say that that's that and that's it. And you might be right. But I mean, I think, Sony's at the point where they're probably a little worried about Microsoft and what they're calling out with, especially the FTC at this point. And, if they kind of say, look, we'll take this deal, maybe they want something else. Microsoft will be like, no, or yes, or they'll come back with something a little smaller, like, hey, you can have a percentage of this or something like that, like microtransaction or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like it would be a back and forth in person because, it's either that or you're just going to fight until the end and you're going to burn every bridge, Sony, especially if this goes through. You're going to, and even if it doesn't go through, I mean, Activision's not too happy about this with Sony.
Well, they've already said it. As a fact, Bobby Kotick said it that if the deal did fail, the relationship with Sony would be destroyed.
And we're at that point. We're at that point where
they know that
Sony could be feeling that this is probably going to go through. Let's start mending the fences a little bit. Okay. We don't have to be kumbaya, but let's start, saying, okay, you know what? If we're the biggest reason why this isn't going through, let's hash something out. And then you at least have a decent relationship with all parties involved. And, we can go back to, just being competitors and doing our own thing. And I think, you got to do that face to face, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you're right, Crispy. I think there's something to be said about having a face to face. I think there's something to be said about fences being mended because look, you said it perfectly. I don't really speak to any executives. You know what I'm saying? So and even if I did, I wouldn't be. I'm just a podcaster, folks. I wouldn't be in the conversation of what this does for for company morale, what this does for company behavior from one company to the other. But I can say, just using common sense here, that this scorched earth mentality that Sony has taken up is wrong. I think what ultimately they have done, and Crispy, I'd like you to respond to this. Gaming, we know gaming makes a lot of money. It's one of the biggest entertainment money makers across any medium. It makes more money than books and magazines and music and movies and film. It makes more money than all of those, maybe even all of those combined. But what Sony has done, and I think this is where the scorched earth mentality comes from, they made such a stink over this deal that they got governmental regulators involved in now watching what goes on in gaming. And when you have been for years quietly just doing your business and no one is paying attention, you can get deals like their $3.6 billion Bungie deal go through regulation like I was tying my shoe. But that's not, in fact, going to be the case anymore, Crispy. What they have done is taken a spotlight, the biggest spotlight in the world, and put it on gaming. Now, everything anyone does is going to be overanalyzed, and that's a problem.
It is. I mean, and it's going to happen now. And we all knew that this is the biggest deal, but they're going to start looking at those 3.6 ones now. That Bungie acquisition ain't going to be like tying the shoe anymore. It's going to be like, putting on your whole outfit. You know what I mean? And you gotta take that time now, and you're going to be spending more money now, Sony. And it's kind of your own darn fault, because if you look at these regulators, a lot of them look to you and say, this is the reason why we have to scrutinize this so much. And you're burning the bridges all around you. As far as gaming is concerned, you have got the spotlight on all kinds of things now. Some of them are warranted, but now, you being one of the biggest proponents of doing those shady deals might have a problem now, and it might be your darn fault. You might have just shot yourself in the foot. So I'm actually looking forward to see when that happens.
Yes, and shout out to Andy B drumming with the comment of the effing show. Okay, and I'm going to hand this off to Fuzzy. And this, I did not even contemplate with all the information I have in front of me. Went right over my mohawk, folks. He says this. I'm going to throw it up on the screen. Andy, this is good shit. I have a feeling Sony is getting really spooked by the discovery process of the FTC case and all of the subpoenas. Well, goddamn. It does. If that does not make perfect sense, if you think, now that I'm putting it together live on the air for you folks, if you think that the constant, hey, we need more time, if you think that them flying out to Microsoft's headquarters to hammer out this deal, to say, hey, listen, let's get a deal done, pull your subpoena away back. We don't want discovery, because then everyone's going to know that we're a bunch of scumbags. That's ultimately what's going to happen, because like I said before, folks, you don't know about the law, I'm a retired New York City police officer of 21 years. I can tell you, I may not know business law, but I do know criminal law. And the minute that it becomes public, we file paperwork for an arrest or a court filing, and it becomes public knowledge, that is available for everyone to see. And that's what Sony does not want. We know what Sony does, but they don't want a definitive X, Y, and Z out there to say, yeah, you see, look, we were right all along. Look, this is what Sony does. These are what the contracts say, anti-Xbox contracts. Do you think, besides hammering out the Call of Duty deal, what Andy had to say is one of the reasons why they flew out there with the quickness, Fuzzy?
Oh yeah, it makes perfect sense. I mean, considering how long they've been pushing back the response to subpoenas for the past couple of weeks, it's like if they can find a way to kind of squash this and make a deal with Microsoft, they'll push past them having to file for those subpoenas. Although it's kind of funny, I wonder if Microsoft will be petty and continue to push to get the subpoenas pulled. But yeah,
maybe it's a bargaining chip.
Yeah,
listen, Sony, sign the deal and we'll pull, and no one knows anything.
It makes sense. I mean, especially when you consider how you had a lot of Microsoft executives as well as even Activision executives saying, Sony's not answering calls or returning calls. So now all of a sudden they're going to fly out. I mean, yes, an in-person meet works better than a phone call or Zoom meeting type of thing, but still, it's just funny timing. And yes, they could have handled other business at like Bungie and so forth, being in the area, but I don't know. You would think if it was a trip out to Bungie, they would have probably did that shortly after the purchase was confirmed. And you would think, unless Bungie has something major in the works, which I don't think they're quite up to speed yet for their second game, or not second game, but their next IP for Sony executives to fly out. But I could be wrong. But I think the Microsoft deal is the big reason why they're in the area. And it's going to be better for Sony to try to negotiate something before their dirty laundry is exposed to the world. And sure, some of the stuff can be redacted, but I think if push comes to shove, they would rather not have these regulators that they've convinced through their complaints that, oh, well, Microsoft will be the big bad guy and raise prices and limit the access to games and so forth, when they've been actually doing that for the past couple of decades. It would be like the pot calling the kettle black kind of thing, and I don't think they want that out there, at least for the regulators. I'm pretty sure they figure, well, some of the public probably understands or has been watching and knows, but the regulators, dare I say, they're as clueless as ever. And to have that front and center while they're trying to listen to Sony's original complaint, but yet their complaint mirrors what they've been doing. Yeah, they're better off just getting this deal done, not exposing their dirty laundry and moving forward. So that was a great insight from Andy on that one.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's something to be said about getting the deal done. I know there's, I mean, again, we've hit over 600 people here in the chat, which is freaking amazing. The show is constantly growing. I remember I used to be happy to get 18 people, and here we are 5 years later with 600. I mean, we're creeping. Randall Thor, I see you, brother. We're getting to dealer cult. When you can get to those kind of numbers, I'm assuming you have arrived, and we're creeping there. So thank you for everyone that's here. I gotta say, and I'll get to the super chats. There's been quite a few of them after we get Dreadpool's opinion. But if you're new to the channel, folks, we are 200 and change away from 12K. And I'd love to hit that so we can start our march towards 13. We have a hefty goal that we put in front of us. We want to hit 15 by the end of the year. I don't know if we do it, but we're certainly going to give it the old college effort. And with 5 shows a week, all different panels, all different personalities, and great conversation, I think we can get there, and we can do that with your help. So if you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing to the channel. Dreadpool, let's get your hot take on this, brother. You understand business as well, and you've talked about it, your personal experience with your companies that you've worked for that were sold. Do you think there is something to be said about Sony's due diligence to work this deal out with Microsoft, to potentially for Microsoft to pull their subpoena request to get their dirty laundry out there? I think that's more than likely. And again, I'm speculating here, folks. I probably wrong, but if that's what happens, it's a good play on Microsoft, because Microsoft knows what Sony does. Sony knows what Sony does. Their practices are just egregious. We all know that, folks. I'm not picking on Sony, but you got to call a spade, Dread. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think that this is a power play by Microsoft, and then Sony's like, yeah, we got to do something, otherwise people are going to know all of the dirty shit?
You know, what's funny is in my business, in my line of work, I've got friends that I've worked with. I've got friends that I've made as acquaintances through interactions from other companies, and we don't like each other company wise, but personnel, we like each other. We see each other, we hang out, we go to lunch, we do all this stuff. You don't think that they're doing the same thing? They're in the same business, so you still have to network. You still have to save face because of who you are. You know what I mean? So it doesn't matter what company you're working for. So these guys are probably working for the execs that the higher ups are. They're like, we're done talking to them, we're done doing this, and somebody smart is saying, look, this is finally there's not a yes man. It's like, hey, look, hold the bus here, look what's going on. If we got to present our information out there, and they're going to see everything in the background that we're doing, how we do what we do, that we're hypocrites in our deceptive practices. I'm sure that's probably something that's going on. So the flight out there, I don't see it being a big deal per se. Like, this is like, oh, let's stop this now before it gets out of hand. I'm sure that was being said beforehand. There have been many flights to Seattle, so it's not just this flight. There, certain execs are flying. And it doesn't have to be an exec. It just could be someone that's in communication, like a handler, right? And they're trying to squash a lot of the negativity on between the companies, and they're trying to figure out how to work things out when you have other people saying publicly this ain't happening, and going from there. So you got to think about it. There's a lot. It's not just two people. It's not Satya and Phil going against Sony, right? There's more people on Xbox that are a part of this. There are many more people on Sony that are also a part of this. So all these cogs we don't see. We just see the shifting of time, but you don't know that the sun is moving, the earth is moving. We don't feel the rotation of the earth, do we? We know we see the stars and the moon and the planets rotating over us, but we don't even stop to think of the magnitude of what this world is for us. Right now you bring this down to the companies, the same difference. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's so many cogs that are working, and whether or not we're not talking, that could be one exec not talking to another exec. That doesn't mean nothing. That doesn't mean that there's other guys underneath them that are not trying to figure this out. Because when they're putting up a stance, there are other people trying to figure out how to mitigate any kind of look. You got to Spin City puts a perfect mind. Anything that comes up, we got to figure out how to change this around so it looks good for us, right? Same thing. They are doing the same thing. They are trying to wheel and deal, and whatever, come up with the best outcome that they can come up with. And now that they're being exposed, I mean, we've already said it before. We are in the know. The normies are not. The politicians definitely don't know anything about gaming, because Mortal Kombat. Oh, wait, Night Trap. Remember Night Trap? That was a
I can't believe they mentioned Night Trap.
Bad
Jesus
game.
Christmas.
Terrible. Did they not realize they meant the wrong kind of bad game, but it was bad and good, because it's a cult favorite now, but it was so horrible. But they thought it was like, oh, sexual this and sexual that, and then the gory Mortal Kombat. And back then, Mortal Kombat was nothing gory. It was just had some blood that they had to turn white to make it look like sweat was being knocked off their face. I mean, come on now. you're talking about politicians, and even today's politicians, yes, they know a little bit more than they did back then.
They're still embarrassingly stupid. I'm sorry.
Exactly, but you see what I'm getting at? These people have so much more to worry about than video games. All right. And now when you bring it into video games, all they think of is video games are violent, right? Well, what are we watching right now? We're watching Dirt 5. That looks like violence to me. I could be driving down the road causing havoc like that, thinking I'm in a rally. Does that mean I'm going to do that? No. What was it? The Fast and Furious movies, when they first came out, everybody was like hot shot and all the cops were out there, because people were trying to, push out their car a little bit. Yeah, it happens. But were they trying to literally race for pinks? Were they trying to do that? No, they went out to undisclosed locations for that. They went to the actual drag strips for that. People are more knowledgeable than the people that are trying to restrict and make laws against this stuff. Just like what are we thinking of? The quads, right?
Oh yeah, you're talking about
with the FCC with them flying up there, too high, right? Now you have to have a license. Now you have to have this. Now you have to have that because
about the drones.
Yes, the drones.
Yeah.
So, but the same thing, people are trying to legislate. They actually had groups get together to with aviation and to educate them on what drones really are and what they're doing when it comes to the hobbyists with these 6-inch drones, the 3-inch drones. You know what I mean? So they're racing, they're doing stunts, they're doing this, they're not doing havoc. You have the few minority that do the worst, but these, this is why you have to have the litigations and the lawsuits and subpoenas of documents to show, hey, look, this is what's going on. Let's bring these people a little bit more education on what's literally is happening. So when you see this and it's like, okay, now they're backtracking, right? They got to be backtracking. I think they've been backtracking for a long time. It's just you didn't see it because Jim is still going out there, and you still see information of Jim still pushing the narrative of woe is Sony. And it's not woe is Sony. It's like wolf in sheep clothing, right? And you got to go from there and realize that finally we're seeing some truth pop out, and hopefully this all straightens out. And hopefully Sony backs off and accepts the deal. This is going to happen, whether or not. I mean, I've been part of a holding company, right? So if Microsoft can't do it, I can see that happening, where COD will be part of a holding company that'll hold on to them for however long it takes, and they will be their own publisher. They'll technically, it'll be somebody that's in favor of Microsoft, and they'll just give them the same deal across the board. This is what we got. This is all we have. We're not going to give you anything special because we can't give it to you. Here's Call of Duty as is, take it or leave it. But it's not from Microsoft. It's not from Xbox. It's from company Box X. I don't know. And it's going to have to happen. So there's ways around this. And if they literally break this down and cause them to separate, do you really want Bob Kotick, whatever his name is? You really want him? You really want him to
You definitely don't want. Yeah, you definitely don't want that dude.
You know what I mean? You don't want him to stay. As soon as this is done with, he's out. He's got his golden parachute. And guess what? If you make him split up, he's not going to pull that cord. He's going to stay there, and he's going to have that golden parachute for later.
Well, he's already said it, dude. There was an article where he said that he would stay on as CEO. No one wants that. I'm sorry, dude. Like, listen, I don't know the guy personally. I can tell you that I'm speaking from an emotional aspect, right? From a law enforcement's point of view. I get vexed when I see crime. I get vexed when I see injustice, because that's who I am. I'm led by honor and integrity. It's what led me to an amazing 21-year career as a police officer. I mean, I had a great career. I even went back to the same high school that I graduated as a youth officer. It was amazing. You'll never hear those stories because it's actually a good one. Nobody wants that dude running the ship because he allowed his people under his leadership to do egregious effing things. Like, I don't know, a Bill Cosby room. Who thought that was a great idea to have a picture of that guy which was charged with rape as your place where you bring what, new chick interns? What?
Mind you, all the good things that he's done for the company just automatically get erased off the board because.
Well, I mean, we know that he threatened someone's life.
We know somebody that actually unlifed themselves. Let's not say it.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yes,
but yeah, someone actually did that because they didn't want to go. They didn't want to deal with this, and unfortunately, they felt they couldn't even quit. And to do that, yet again, all this stuff with all the good stuff that he's done for the company erases because of all of this other bad stuff, and that's why we don't want him. It's just like, do we say the WW2 tiny little company took over most of the world with that little company, and all the stuff that was done was horrendous. So you got to remember, certain things might be good at first, but when you see the ends to the means are not, it erases all the goodness. And you got to remember that. That's why we got to hold everybody straight up as it is, to be accountable, and stuff like this. This is, we're holding Microsoft to be accountable for everything that they've done in the past, right? Are we not? They're still hearing stuff from back in the Apple versus Microsoft days. Microsoft's still bad, but they're not the same company. They're also the number one company that it comes to friendliness for the employees, a good, best workplace. Same thing with Xbox. They're not 2013. We're in 2023. Different companies. We still bring up the bad because we have to remember where they were and hold them accountable to it. Same thing here.
Yep.
Sony has done bad stuff, and we're holding them accountable. And this has to go a certain way. And once everybody's held accountable, we can go for better. That's what we want. We want better. We don't want Sony to go down. We want the competition. We want them to do better. We want Microsoft to do better. We want Xbox to do better. We want PlayStation to do better. We want Nintendo to do better, right? Aren't we asking for a high def switch or something to replace what they have now? Same difference. We want them to do better, but we don't know what's going on in the back doors that they're wheeling and dealing and trying to get this stuff out there. So if they're trying to wheel and deal to keep COD, this could be it. This could be, but this isn't the only interaction that they're having. There's others that are having these interactions in flights. We just don't know about it.
Yeah.
You don't think that there's Sony personnel in Seattle? I'm just saying.
No, make perfect sense. Listen,
I know I went all around the board.
Listen, dude, this is a conversational podcast, bro. This is what we do, but I appreciate the insight. Listen, let me address something in the chat here, folks. Okay. Just because Cosby was acquitted doesn't mean he didn't do it. Let's be real here, folks. Come on. We've seen acquittals happen because of the lack of processed evidence, and that's why they lose the case. Let's not get cheeky here. The guy's a perp, straight up rapist. Sorry, if that's your hero, you need to pick a new one. The guy is guilty, straight up. End of story. And the fact that a Bill Cosby room or a room dedicated to a rapist is allowed to be a thing in a company under the watchful eye of Bobby Kotick is disgusting. Sorry, I don't know what else to say, but
you can still be a fan of his old work, but you have to realize where he's at now.
Yeah, listen, it is what it is. Let me catch up on the super chats. I'm going to get into PlayStation VR because I have the reviews in front of me. It's getting reviewed pretty good. A couple of very low scores, one of which came the way of Game Informer. Gave it a 5 out of 10. I was very surprised by that. But for the most part, it is rocking a lot of 90s, a lot of high 80s. Like I said, there are multiple videos out there. The one that I watched from start to finish because I was very intrigued the way he does it is ACG. I watched his video on and his review, and it's phenomenal. They really break down exactly what's good about the unit. But let me catch up on some of the super chats here, and then of course we will continue with that conversation. Okay, Dan the Man Cunningham. Hey Dan, what's up, brother? Thank you so much for joining us. He drops a $5 super chat and says, "Morning Boom and Panel. The petty part of me hopes Microsoft pulls back on their offer to put Call of Duty on PlayStation Plus to make them feel the pain." You know what? Listen, here's the thing. I understand the pettiness, and you know what? It's completely justified because Sony does some real petty shit. They really do. But think about this for a second. I hope it goes to PlayStation Plus. I really do. And I'm going to tell you why. Because Sony is going to have to pay Microsoft anywhere between 700 million and $1 billion per year or per contract. Because remember, we heard that the last contract that Sony signed with Activision was upwards of $300 million. Now, I don't know, because I don't have the contract in front of me, if that is yearly or if that is a 3-year, $100 million per year deal. But after the money that Call of Duty made last year, specifically on PlayStation, where it made buckets and boatloads of money, Microsoft will say, "Yeah, we'll put it into your PlayStation Plus, not a problem. Here's the bill," and they're going to have to pay to keep it in their service. Same way Microsoft has to pay a boatload of money to get MLB The Show, which is Sony first party, but they're really paying MLB because they own the license. But you'd imagine that money's got to be a lot because Sony themselves, who have their own service, are not putting MLB The Show in even at least in premium, but it's going to be put into Game Pass. That tells you something. That tells you how much money Microsoft spent. So if they do get it, it's just more money for Microsoft to invest in new studios, new games, whatever they want to invest their money in. But Sony, understand this, is going to have to pay. Giggity08 drops an additional very generous $5 super chat and says NetEase just acquired Quantic Dreams for 100 million euros. Posted an hour ago. Yeah, Quantic Dreams, Dan, that's a good studio. Wow. So NetEase is continuing to just suck up the creators left, right, and center. Well, I mean, at least they're going to be backed by NetEase and they'll make bigger budget games. Gerald Mack, who's been a channel member for a year, drops an additional $5 super chat and says, "At the end of the day, Sony has to respect $69 billion being spent. They're not as stupid as we would like them to be. Hashtag Xbox takeover." Yeah, I agree. Hey, Predator H2O, what's going on, dude? A long time, no time. Thanks so much for dropping by. He drops a $5 super chat and says, "I think this is a way of letting Sony come to the agreement about the deal before it's official and Sony gets nothing." Whoa, that would be something. Stitch 6669 drops a $5 super chat and says, "Well, it makes sense now. If they don't talk, Sony most likely will be forced to present documents that they don't want out in the public space." Yes, I absolutely agree. Highlander 001 drops an additional $5 super chat and says, "I saw rumors going around about Microsoft might file an antitrust lawsuit. Can that happen, or is that a real threat?" Honestly, dude, I don't know. I would imagine that I'm sure that they've discussed it. And Dan the Man Cunningham drops an additional $5 super chat and says, "There's nothing that forces Microsoft to play ball with Sony now. In days, it'll all come out. I'd love Microsoft to tell Sony to eat a bag of dinks." I love that. That's good stuff. Not cursing. I love it. I look, I know all of us want to be petty. Like, we want to just be the pettiest of petty gamers. But I say let the game be everywhere, and who cares? Like, who really cares? The days of exclusivity, unless it's first party, and I know. Oh, but boom, it's Call of Duty will be first party. I get it. But at the end of the day, they are investing $69 billion. And they're going to have to make that money back one way or another. Putting it everywhere is like Minecraft, is basically going to be a cash cow. So let's talk PlayStation VR 2.0. Crispy, I want to go to you first, specifically because you talk about how your girlfriend's son is diehard VR guy. This price point, I think, really does box a lot of people out. Not because we're poor, because it's an investment that maybe a lot of people do not want to make. It's getting good reviews. That's not a surprise. Sony makes great hardware. What are your thoughts on whether this is going to sit on the shelf or not?
Kind of already is. That price point, I that's a killer. Like, and like he's all about PC and VR right now. Yeah, we got Xbox. He plays with his mom. He plays at grandma's house. We have the Xbox chilling over there. But in realism, all he cares about, all he wants to invest in is PC at this point. And if we had said, okay, we'll get you this PSVR headset, even if we had a PlayStation 5 at $600, he'd be like, no, I want a new graphics card. And there's a lot of people that are probably like that. Especially this younger generation is down for this PC thing because we had it at one point. It was like brand new, and then like eventually the consoles were they ran just as good for the games, so we kind of just said, nah, the console is kind of better. You know what I mean? It's easier, you plug and play, but nowadays, I mean, he's on that PC when he gets home. He does his chores, goes upstairs, goes on the PC, and then once in a while his friends might be like, hey, let's play some VR, and then he jumps on the Quest. And like I said before, unfortunately, this not being able to be hooked up to a PC is a problem, because if you don't have the PS5, and as of now, I heard that people are probably already working on a way to have it run on
I'm
PC,
sure the modders will definitely be able to add that in the coming days, if not weeks.
But it's also one of those things like, Sony, why didn't you just do that? It's not like you're putting it on an Xbox. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand. And especially at that price point, like, it makes me feel like, they really half-assed, to excuse my language, this entire launch right now. And Call of the Mountain, like I said a few weeks back, like he said to me, he's like, dude, that looks like a game that should have came out like 3-4 years ago. And I'm like, oh, okay. I don't play him, so I look at him and he's a smart kid, and he's like, dude, like, nah. He's like, I got games that are 5 times better than that, and you probably can't even get them on that. He's like, there's no point. The games I play, you probably can't even get on that yet. He's like, it just doesn't seem like it's worth it. And I feel like some are going to say the technology is just amazing, but you priced yourself out. I mean, if you don't have the PS5 already, we're talking over $1,000, man.
You're talking
That's
over
a lot of money.
1,300, give or take.
You can buy a decent PC for that. Think about that. So, that's the way he's looking at it. I agree with him. I mean, if I was going to buy a PS5 and I would just buy a PC because I need one. I do this podcasting thing off a laptop. You know what I mean? So, why not have the PC and maybe down the road start my own show? You know what I mean? Because you could do it on this, but it's like, are you really invested if you're doing it on that, or you got to be on a PC? I think Boom can agree. Like, it's a lot different now that he has a PC. You know what I mean? You got a lot more stuff to work with and be able to make some changes that are really good. So, that's where I say, like, I feel like Sony's kind of just like, meh, here. You guys wanted it here. But it's like, if you're not even going to sell 1 million units, you're not justifying developing games on it. You can't. I mean, there's the cost involved to make a high quality game. We all know. We give them praise for it. And you just feel like that's not going to happen. And that's where everybody says, oh, Game Pass is going to dumb down gaming. I mean, I don't feel like they're going to take that investment into that make a banger, as we call it, come to fruition if they don't have anybody playing the darn thing. So it's gonna be interesting to see. The technology's there, but you price yourself out, man.
I agree, folks. Look, here's the thing. I said it before. Some people are like, oh, wait. They're gonna put a negative spin on the hardware. There's nothing to put a negative spin on. Hardware is fantastic. Any review that you watch the breakdown of it. It's really a nice piece of tech, and it's probably worth maybe. Yeah, I don't know if Sony's taking a loss on it or not. That's irrelevant. It's a nice piece of tech. The problem, folks, are two things. Sony is a great hardware maker, and yes, for the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5, they make fantastic software. But as someone who bought both versions of PlayStation VR 1, the first one and then the one with the HDR path through, I bought both. Their first party output for games to support VR were piss poor at best. Okay. And what we have learned very early before the thing is even out for people to peruse, according to prominent people like ACG, the Horizon game, that is a launch title, first game. It's the first game, big budgeted game for the console. It comes, you can buy it separately or you can buy the pack-in. The pack-in version is $600. After tax, it's $660. That is more expensive than the actual unit that you need to buy it, which they raised by $50. So if you buy a PlayStation 5 for $550, and you're probably going to get 2 games, which is dope, right? There's your $600 price point. You add $660 after tax. That's almost $1,300 for this thing. And Horizon, the DLC, but the game that's made specifically for the new unit isn't good. So if it doesn't sell, Sony is going to look at this thing and like, well, you know what? People are going to want to develop, so we'll just load it with shovelware. And it's not even backwards compatible. So let's not make excuses. I mean, I'm tipping the cap to Sony for the hardware, but they don't stay invested in their products. We've seen that with the PlayStation VR 1. We've seen that with the PSP and the Vita. They invest a little bit. When it doesn't hit, they do this. I'm sorry. It's there. So I'm not investing in Sony because Sony does not invest in me. And that's the bottom line on it. Let's get Fuzzy in on the conversation and get your opinion on this quickly. What are your thoughts on PlayStation VR? I know that you and the kids love VR. Is it a day one for you, or you kind of hands off?
It's not a day one. If they did the pretty much out of the box PC compatibility, it probably would be. Right now, GT7 is probably the biggest thing on.
Yeah, I know you're going to say that. I knew it.
As far as the appeal for it, but not at $550 at this point in time. A few more games, like 2 or 3 more, and it's a day one deal, or not day one, but like I'll pick it up then. Or if they somehow figure out a easy SDK to allow this to work with PC games that are already out there, then yeah, those are the only real ways that this is on the within the first year buy list. As of right now, I'm probably going to wait it out. I'm pretty sure there's going to be games coming. Like Onward on Quest 2 is a pretty decent game if you're into first person shooters and you want like a virtual reality first person shooter. There's another one that should be coming to
what was the name of that game?
In a while. Onward. Basically, okay. It's like you can be like a sniper team. The graphics aren't the greatest, but when you get into VR, it's definitely serviceable. It's more on par with, like, let's say.
What about is it on par with like the Medal of Honor that they released?
It would be like what do you call it? Insurgency Sandstorm graphics as opposed to Call of Duty graphics. So it's not like real life graphics, but it's fairly cool. There's also Geronimo, which should be coming. It's more of like a Splinter Cell and Ghost Recon style shooter that should be coming to at least a Quest. If it comes to PlayStation VR, then that would be also on the list for ones to look out for as far as to pick up. But for right now, hardware reviews are great. I would trust that they're going to improve upon what they did previously. It looks like this is going to be one of the more comfortable, even though it's a little bit heavier than some of the other ones on the market. It seems to have the best padding and comfort as far as gaskets, so it blocks light, doesn't cause as much fatigue on your head.
It's also good for people who wear glasses, because the first
Yeah.
PlayStation VR was phenomenal for that. You never felt like it was too heavy on your face or it was bothering your face if you wore glasses.
Yeah, so they knocked it out of the park as far as the pricing for the kit you're getting. Yes, it's still wired, but for that price point, I don't think you're going to find anything wireless that's in the same league visually wise. It's just more software needs to be on the table, at least for me to hop in. I know that there's a handful of people that are pre-ordering them. They're still available for pre-order. Maybe if it was $100 less, it would tip me over to pick it up now as opposed to later. I'm hoping that they see a price reduction over time slightly. I know Quest went up in price at the point when I wound up picking them up, but yeah, we'll see for like around this time next year. As long as there's more and more like either shooters or racing games that are right up my alley, I'll wind up picking it up eventually, just not day one for now.
Yeah, John Harmer in the chat says, no Half-Life Alex, no sale for me. You see, I agree. Yeah. If Half-Life Alex, which I don't have, my PC doesn't run it, Mrs. Boom's PC would be able to run it because she's rocking a 3080 in her Alienware, which I got her for Christmas. Which that's fine, but for me, my computer wouldn't even run it at 10 frames, let alone in VR. But listen, that's one I'm actually very surprised is not a part of the list. I thought for sure that was going to be a launch title. I don't know why it wasn't. If it's ever coming to the platform, I could have sworn I read somewhere where they were in discussions with Valve to bring it over. Maybe it does. Hopefully it does, because when it does, maybe I turn around and I buy it, because I don't, like I said, Half-Life Alyx is like legit an incredible VR experience. But Dave, let's get your opinion on this, brother. Day one for you. You're a tech guy. You're a techie. Yep. Are you getting this console, or are you getting the VR to go with your PlayStation 5?
I am not. I have no interest in VR, to be honest. Now, my son is big on VR. He actually has a couple of headsets, and but he is actually gonna wait and see how things develop. Gonna wait and see some of the product that comes out over the next year before he bites the bullet. He's already told me that because money's a little tight for everybody still, even though he's got a good job and everything, but it's still just it's an investment if you really want to get into it. And what he plays now, he's enjoying it. So he doesn't see there's anything, I guess, there's no killer app like what y'all were just talking about, which would have been a killer app to make people want to jump into it. So as of right now, even the pack-in, I believe that's if you buy the bundle, the Horizon game is not got great reviews on it. They say it's an okay game, and it's an okay game for being a Horizon game, but not necessarily mind-boggling or something you should go out and get the headset for. So that's what I would say on that. Is personally, I'm not planning on getting one at all. My wife doesn't do 3D. Donkey Kong is 2D. When she went to we played 3D on the 64, and she's like, about 2 minutes in, she's like, I can't do this. So yeah, doesn't even watch us play anything like 3D game stuff. She'll look away because she says it just makes her sick. So there you go.
Oh, I mean, perfect. Short and sweet, but right to the point. I thought you were going to say you were, because you're a techie guy. You like
a tech guy.
I like techie, but
me too.
Again, it's just the way the world is right now. I mean, I have it, but I don't want to spend it because Mrs. Boom and I want our own place. So that and
it makes sense, because it's a big expense. That's a chunk to change, man. That's a chunk.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But listen, last and no way least, Dreadpool, you're a VR guy as well. Where do you kind of fall on PlayStation VR? 2.0 day one for you, or you like everyone else going to kind of just sit back and wait and see how it all plays out?
I'm gonna analyze it and wait it out. I mean, I really want to get into this one. It's the tech is there, right? But there's no way, because they haven't even said it. They haven't said, if you want to get a second job. I think they really know what the flashback's going to be when it comes back at them when they say something like that. But when you look at it, the tech is awesome. There's no doubt about it. But what would have helped, not hurt as much for the price that it is if they would have allowed it to be BC, if they would have allowed it to function with the gadgets that you need. And at the same time, we've talked about it before, say, hey, look, it's allowed, but we're leaving it up to the developers to bring it over from the PS4 device to the PS5 device. So we'll do it this way. That way, they're not the ones being held back by anything because they're not the ones that have to make the gear work for PlayStation 4 VR, right? So if they did it like that, it probably wouldn't hurt as bad. But most of us already, for those that already have a PS5, it's not going to cost us that much more money to buy it. So yeah, if you're first time going in, over $1,300, that's a big deal. That's a lot of money to be disappointed with. But for $600, it's still a disappointment. I have to trust the guys that have played it and are into it. And at the same time, you look at Crispy Son, that, he's not into it, so what does that tell you? So
He's a VR kid, so that definitely says something.
Exactly. There's something there. You need to listen to it, right? How many times we talked about the demographic, with the younger generation, they're into the different things than we're into, right? When we had VR, it was just blocks, literally blocks.
Mm-hmm.
I tried it out way back in the 90s when it was its second coming, right? It was the second coming of VR, and we're playing on blocks. You had this whole rig on top of your head, and you can turn around and shoot and this and that. That's and where we're at now, if he's saying that looks like a last gen type of game, and this is rocking on new hardware that's should be blowing the smoke off of the Quest, which is how old now?
The Quest 2 is 3 years old, right?
Yeah.
3, something like that. It's old. The Quest 3 should be releasing soon. That's going to be probably just as expensive. At least that will be wireless, though.
And we also got to remember the pandemic also caused a lot of the inflation.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the 4090s. They're basically going for 4080s. Let's put it that way. They're basically going for what they were being sold on the aftermarket, right? Their MSRP is the aftermarket scalping prices. Think about that. So everybody's jamming up the prices. They're under building technically, so that way the prices can stay high. So that way they don't have to bring the prices down. There's a lot to this. It's not just one thing. It's not just them saying, hey, I want to charge you this. They're saying, hey, I want to charge you this, but I'm also not going to build as much. I'm also not going to do this. I'm also not going to do that, but I'm going to give you the best kick-ass VR experience that you can have, but I'm not going to give it to you. Right? So do what you will. If you guys are into it, go for it. If my thing is, I would be cautious, and hopefully, just like the rest of the games, right? Remember this: first generation stuff is always at the beginning of the generation, not first generation. Beginning of the generation, everything's lackluster. They
shovelware.
They still haven't been able to produce what they could. Look at the 360. Look at PlayStation 3 when they first came out with those games at the beginning of the generation versus what they came out with the end of the generation. You got to remember that But I
Yeah.
think they did themselves a disservice, well, with the way that they presented it and the way that they're doing it, and that's the problem. And most people in this time, we're in a recession, plain and simple.
Yep.
Who's got that extra money? Who can afford to get a second job? You know, most people are still busting their, working hard,
I got you.
trying to, get that money. And unfortunately, so a lot of these companies are doing part-time work. They don't want to hire full-timers.
Well, if you look
So-
at the numbers, Dread, of PlayStation 4 and PlayStation VR, how many people actually bought it? It was like 6 or 7% of the populace that bought it. So
yeah. And in my industry, temp services are booming because no one can stay.
yep.
You do your 90 days and you're given time to be onboarded, but it's easier to find out that nobody wants to work, nobody wants to do this, and that's why they go with temp companies, so that way they can get rid of you. And it's nothing personal. It's just that's the way they do it. I know banking, financial places where they would not hire you permanently. If they did, you're a part-timer, so that way they didn't have to pay
Insurance and things of that
insurance and all
nature.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so your benefits weren't there. So
Yeah.
I mean, and this is one of the biggest banks in America. Wink, wink. If you didn't get the name out there that I just said, but I know that for a fact because they used to be one of my customers.
Yeah. Well, listen, at the end of the day, Dread, this is listen, if you're going to invest in it, awesome. If you have the spendable cash, excellent. If you think that Horizon is done, it's going to do the hardware service, justice for you, and it justifies your purchase, that's great. Real quick, Pragmatic Eagle says this. First of all, he's been a channel member for 40 months. Wow, dude, thank you so much for the support. He says, great hardware means nothing without software/programs. Looking at you, 3D TVs. I said that. I said the same thing about 3D TVs. They came and went. They were a thing. People were like, yeah, wear these glasses. They're great. And then you had to buy extra glasses. You had to update. It's just dumb. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, we've hit the 2-hour mark. And in this show, we knocked out 3 topics. We saw one of our panel members get to 1K live on the air. We'll start first with you, Dreadpool. You sold your brand very well. You're at 1K. Congratulations on the massive feat live on the air. You're going to be able to go back and play it anytime you want to see when that happened. Sell your brand, brother. Talk about breaking bread with Dread, where people can check out a very unique way of interviewing while hanging out. And also, more importantly, where can people find you on social media?
Yes, I got to thank you guys. For those that are watching the video, it's right up there.
There you go.
Linktree.com, YouTube at Dreadpool, Twitter at Dreadpool. The O's are actually zeros on there. TikTok, Hover. I just did the Valentine's horror trail, haunted trail. So I got some of that up there. I did some 8K upscaling on the videos. So if you have an 8K TV, it might not look the best, but it'll play. I try to do as best quality as I can with what I have, and I appreciate every single one of you for today. My birthday. I'm gonna say it's my birthday present because you guys knocked it out of the park for me. I mean, I really can't thank you guys enough. But definitely check it out. Later on, I will be on Dad's Cast later on today. I think he said 8 British time. I forget what that converts to. I think it's like
if it's 8 p.m. their time, I think it's super late our time.
It's in the afternoon. So check out Daz. He's got Back from the Dead on there. But of course, here every Friday at 10 a.m. unless something special happens that I have to be away from, which I hate doing because I love you guys and I love hanging out with each and every one of you guys. And then 7 p.m. For my birthday, Gaming Beyond the Box Sunday night, 7 p.m. So it's going to be. I don't know if the guys even realize it's my birthday because I haven't.
They probably don't, but I'm sure that you'll have a big celebration. Those guys are great over there. Woody Hood runs a tight ship. when it comes to hilarity. But listen, again, congratulations, Shred.
Thank you.
It's well deserved. You work really hard. You deserve it. You're a good dude. You're a great community member, and it couldn't happen to a nicer guy.
All I got to say is now that we've got myself up here, Web Dave is the next one.
We've got to put Dave on our back now because he does some amazing interviews. That's right, absolutely.
He does some good ones. I had to watch Cognito interview again. He did Scrub Nurse this past one, which was a great interview. And then I just saw Cognito pop up again. I was like, I got to watch that one again.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one.
And if you want the longest one that he's ever done, that is myself. 2 hours, baby. 2 hours.
Matrimony.
And he cut me off.
I was not. I didn't cut you off.
My wife says one of my biggest flaws. I'm long-winded, but listen. Again, congratulations, Dread.
Thank you all.
No problem, brother. And Dave, let's sell your brand. If you don't know who Web Dave is, then you're missing the mark, folks. We are now going to focus on getting Web Dave to 1K because he does a lot of really good work. He's interviewed everyone that you are subscribed to and then some. Sell your brand, brother. Talk about some of the people you've interviewed outside of everyone on this panel because you have interviewed everyone here. But where could they subscribe to your YouTube channel and more importantly, reach out to you on social media?
Just drop the link in the chat and it's also in your description, which I appreciate you doing that for me, Boom. Thank you so much, and congratulations, Dreadpool, on well deserved, sir. And but yeah, you can check us out. We have the show, which is recurring, which is Outbreak Gamers, which we have tons of interviews up there. Colt Eastwood, Dealer, Randolph Thor 19, just a lot of great interviews. Right now, I've got the newest one this week is Scrub Nurse, Nukem. Skullsy is on there. Lane
King
Gomez
David
is one I've done recently. Just absolutely great interviews. Proud of all of them. And it's interesting to get to know a little bit more about some of these amazing content creators. And that was the whole premise for the show. And a new show, which was be episode number 2, which we took a week off for the Super Bowl. Me and the man Retry are going to be doing another show this Sunday at 6 p.m. Central Time, which is Gamers Council Live, which is a chance for everybody. There's no super chats or anything like that. So you just jump in and we'll bring you up and we'll get you into the conversation. So if you're in the chat and you got some good comments and good questions, we will get there and we'll start talking about what you want to talk about in the realm of gaming.
Nice. Good stuff as always, brother. Yeah, good. Definitely go check out Dave and Retry on the new Gamers Council podcast. Now, what was it again? 7 p.m.
It's 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m.
Eastern.
Pacific or Eastern.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
At on Sundays. Yep. For now, we'll
definitely go check out that new show. And what's unique about it is the fact that your questions are the topics. I love that idea. I think not a lot of people do that. And it's a great take on involving the community in on the conversation. And as long as it's not, the anti-Xbox, anti-PlayStation, Nintendo kind of a question, you're more than likely going to get your time to shine. So if you have real legit questions that you want to talk about, drop them there. And that's really good stuff as always. Crispy Bombs, sell your brand, brother. Where can people reach out to you on social media? But more importantly, find you on other podcasts, sir.
Congratulations, Dread. Freaking awesome. Shout out to the chat for getting it done.
Yes.
It is well deserved. Yes. At Crispy Bomb on Twitter, Crispy Bomb 28, Xbox Live. You can find me on Retro Renegades Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Primetime Gaming, 7 p.m. Wednesday. And the next podcast, Thursdays, 8 p.m. And occasionally back here. We'll see you then.
Yeah, and when it's always going to be spicy, you can expect Crispy Bomb to show up. So, Crispy, thanks so much for being here, brother. Definitely love you and appreciate the work that you do in the community. Fuzzy Belvedere, sell your brand, brother. Talk about the best place for anything and everything racing. You're on the hunt for 1K as well. We got to put you on our backs and let you cross the finish line as well. Where can people subscribe to your YouTube channel? But more importantly, reach out to you on social media.
Just want to thank you for having me on. It was awesome being on here with you guys, as well as interacting with those in the chat. And thanks to everybody that caught this live and will catch this on replay. For those that want to hear any of my takes on anything racing related or just any gaming in general, you can follow me on social media at fuzzy_Belvedere, both on Twitter as well as YouTube. And for those that want to see me on other shows, look forward to joining me on the Xbox Ultimate Podcast on Fun Speculations channel at 10 p.m. Eastern Time tonight.
Yes.
On Fun Speculations channel. Shop Podcast on PTK Blam's channel tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then on the Xbox Lunch Break Special right here on Double Barrel Gaming at 12 noon on Monday morning or Monday afternoon. And then right back here on Breakfast with Boom at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Look forward to seeing you guys there.
Yeah, thanks so much. And ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you for all of the super chats. My goodness, it's been a ton of them today. And like I said, Mrs. Boom and I honestly and truly appreciate the generosity that comes both through channel memberships, which we have two tiers, a $5 and a $10 one. Really, you know, those memberships as well as the super chats help more than you know. Obviously, we love doing the giveaways, and we can only do that if we get the support. And in the coming months, probably by mid-March, we're going to be launching our very first line of clothing for Double Barrel Gaming. Ben Kenobi is finishing up the designs. The first couple are phenomenal. I mean, really, really cool. We're going to be teaming up with Teespring. We're going to have that set, you know, on the channel, as well as our, you know, another way to, you know, get to their website and specifically get for Double Barrel Gaming merchandise. And again, it's the first time we're doing it, so we're still a little sketchy about it because you know everyone else is doing it. So people have been asking, you know, when that line was going to launch, and I wanted new designs, and some of the designs are really, really smoking hot. I cannot wait to show everybody. Thank you so much again for being here. And of course, we're going to close out the show with something that's important to me. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So have an awesome weekend. Enjoy gaming on whatever console you enjoy gaming. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of Breakfast with Boom.